somewhere above your roof. Right now, the night is doing what it has always done, holding its scattered stars apart on a field of deep and perfect black. Tonight, gently and with nowhere at all to be, we are going to keep that blackness company and wonder, slowly, why the sky between the stars is dark when the universe is so full of light. It is the oldest and kindest question in astronomy, and you do not have to do anything with it, tonight or ever. Let the day set itself down now, gently wherever it happens to be. There is nowhere you need to go, and nothing here that needs figuring out. If it is easy to do, dim the lights a little, and let your body settle into whatever is holding it, the bed, the pillow, the soft weight of the blankets. You do not have to stay awake for any of this. Falling asleep in the middle of a sentence is not a failure here. It is the whole idea. Everything tonight is built to be drifted through, and the voice will go on quietly whether you follow it or not. Take one slow breath in through the nose and let it leave on its own time. Feel your shoulders come down a little and then a little more, and notice how the room already seems softer than it did a moment ago. The small sounds of the evening can stay where they are, out at the edge of things. Nothing out there asks anything of you now. Whatever the day held, whatever was left half done, it will keep perfectly well until morning without your watching over it. So let your hands go loose and your jaw unclench, and the long muscles along your back give up their holding, slowly, one by one. The day you have had can end here. However it went, whatever it asked of you, it is over now, and the night is wide, and there is a great deal of night left. Sleep does not need to be chased tonight. It only needs to be allowed. The way you might leave a door open for a cat that comes in when it is ready. While you wait for it, this voice will keep talking, softly, about the sky, and the waiting itself will grow so calm that somewhere along the way it will simply turn into sleep without your noticing the seam. For the next long while, you are not doing any of this alone. A voice is here with you in the dark, low and unhurried, and it will carry the thinking so that you no longer have to. Wherever your mind has been running all day, it can slow down now and rest and follow one calm thread out among the stars, or let go of even that and simply sleep. There is no test at the end, nothing to remember, nothing to hold. Tonight is only a long, quiet sitting with the sky, told slowly, in the dark, for as long as you care to listen. And tonight, while you rest, we are going to sit with a question. It is a question a child can ask at a window and a lifetime of science can answer, and both of them are welcome here. The universe holds more stars than every grain of sand on every beach of this world. More stars than that, by any counting, scattered through the deep in every direction anyone has ever looked. And yet, when you step outside on a clear night and look up, the sky between those stars is black, not dim, black. The question is simply this: why? Hold that question loosely, the way you would hold something small and worn smooth. It has no urgency in it at all. People have carried it for 400 years without any harm coming to them. And most of them carried it exactly the way you are carrying it now, lying in the dark, wondering a little, drifting towards sleep. A question like this is good company at night. It does not demand an answer by morning. It only sits with you in the quiet, patient and familiar, like the dark itself. Here is where we will go, so that you can stop wondering and simply drift. First, we will stand at the night sky itself and look at it the way people have always looked at it, patiently, with the naked eye. Then we will meet the stargazers who first noticed the puzzle, a few patient souls across 4 centuries who lay awake with it just as you might tonight. After that, we will walk out along a single line of sight, slowly, farther and farther, toward the edge of everything that can be seen. And waiting out there, at the far end of the dark, is the answer, a quiet one. An answer made of time. You can rest easy about one thing before we start. There is no catch in this story, and no twist waiting anywhere along the way. The answer to the dark sky is known, and it has been known for a while, and it is beautiful, and we will arrive at it slowly, the way you might walk toward a lit house at the end of a long evening. Nothing will startle you, and nothing will ask you to worry. The sky has been dark every night since the first person looked up at it, and it will be dark tomorrow, and that darkness, as we will see, is one of the kindest facts in all of science. Let your breathing find its own slow pace as we begin. Breathe in easily and let it go, and feel how each breath out leaves you a little heavier, a little softer, a little further from the day. If it feels right to you, a gentle like or a quiet subscribe helps this small channel drift on. And that is the last thing anyone will ask of you tonight. From here onward, there is only the sky and the dark, and this one slow question, unwinding at the pace of sleep. Picture it now, before we go anywhere at all. A house gone quiet at the end of the evening, lamps out, one last light switched off somewhere down the hall. Outside, the night has settled in fully, clear and still, and the stars are out over the rooftops the way they have been out over every rooftop there has ever been. Somewhere in that house, a person pauses the way people have always paused and turns toward the glass. So we begin where every question about the sky begins, at a window, after dark, looking up. Begin at that window then. Or better, step outside it into a night that is truly dark. Not the night of a city where the streetlights hold a pale ceiling overhead, but the older kind of night, far from town, where the dark comes all the way down to the ground, a field somewhere, or a quiet shore, or a porch at the end of a long dirt road. The air is cool and still. Overhead, the sky is already scattered with stars, and for the moment that is all you need to know about it. Stand there, or imagine standing there, with your head tipped back and your breath slowing, and let the sky be the only thing happening. Your eyes will need a little while to arrive. It takes about half an hour for a human eye to open fully to the dark. The pupils widening, the deeper chemistry of seeing slowly waking, and there is no way to hurry it and no reason to try. Minute by minute, the sky comes further in. Stars you could not see at first begin to surface, faint ones between the bright ones, and then fainter ones between those. The way details rise out of a photograph developing in a tray. Nothing new is being added up there. The sky is only letting you see what was there all along, at the speed your own body allows. And here is a gentle surprise, the first of the night. Count every star that the sharpest naked eye can find, from the darkest place on Earth, across the whole bowl of the sky, and the number comes out smaller than you would ever guess, a few thousand at most. Not millions, and nothing like the countless spill. It seems to be a few thousand small fires, each with its place and its brightness, scattered thinly across a blackness that outweighs them all. The sky at night is mostly not stars. It is mostly the dark between them, and that, though it takes a while to notice, is the strangest thing in view. Across that thin scattering, on the best nights, something larger arches. A soft band of pale light climbs from one horizon, crosses the top of the sky, and comes down the other side, glowing faintly, like a river of mist that never moves. That band is the Milky Way, and it is not a cloud and not a trick of the eye. It is our own galaxy, the great disk of stars we live inside, seen edge on from within. The combined shine of more suns than the eye could ever split apart. When you look at it, you are looking along the flat of our home in the universe, the long way through, from somewhere in the middle of it. Notice how quiet the whole arrangement is. Nothing up there hums or flickers or asks to be watched. The stars simply stand in their places, burning without a sound that can reach you, and the band of the galaxy lies across them like something sleeping. Watching a sky like this is one of the oldest things a person can do, and one of the calmest, because nothing you see will change tonight in any way your eye could catch. Shepherds watched this same stillness. Sailors steer by it. Children fell asleep under it long before anyone knew what a single one of those lights was, and it kept them company all the same. Give the looking some time, the way the sky gives it time. Your breathing has slowed by now, and the cool air moves in and out of you at the pace of the night itself. Minutes pass without anything needing to happen in them. Off at the edge of hearing there may be crickets, or wind in the grass, or nothing at all, and above it the sky does its one slow thing, which is to turn, so gradually that an hour of watching barely shows it. Stillness like this is rare on the ground these days, and yet the sky has never offered anything else. There is one more soft thing to know about the light landing on you now. Starlight is a traveler. Every glimmer that reaches your eye tonight set out from its star some time ago, years ago in some cases, centuries ago in others, and it has been crossing the dark ever since, unhurried, in a straight quiet line, to end its journey on the back of a human eye. The light of some stars overhead is older than the person watching it. Whole lifetimes have passed while it traveled, and its long trip ends so gently that you feel nothing at all. Only the small sensation we call seeing a star. Now let your gaze slide off the stars themselves and into the spaces between them. This is the part of the sky nobody teaches you to look at. Between any two stars, in even the richest stretch of the Milky Way, there is blackness, and when you give it your full attention, you find it is not a soft grey and not a faint haze holding a hint of light. It is black. True, black, deep and total. The darkest thing you will ever look at with your own eyes, filling far more of the sky than all the stars together. The night is not a field of light with gaps in it. It is a field of dark with a few small lights scattered on. Somewhere in you, a very young voice may already be asking the obvious thing. Children ask it all the time, at windows, in the back seats of cars on night drives, intense with the flap open. If the sky is full of stars, why is it dark? Grown people tend to smile at the question and move on because it sounds too simple to need an answer. It is not simple. That small bedtime question turns out to be one of the deepest ever asked about the universe. Deep enough that answering it properly takes in the age of everything, and the speed of light, and the beginning of time. And a child at a window is holding all of that lightly without knowing. Because think of what the sky seems to promise. Stars beyond counting, suns beyond suns, in every direction, out to distances with no known wall. If each of them shines, and there are so unthinkably many, then it feels as though the whole night ought to blaze. Every patch of sky should be crowded with light upon light, until the darkness is papered over completely, and the night glows like a single vast lamp. The sky, by that reasoning, should be a wall of light. And it is not quietly, patiently, every single night. It is not. Rest with that for a moment, because there is no hurry to resolve it. The dark overhead is not going anywhere, and neither are you, settled and warm, while the night stands still outside. Something about the blackness between the stars does not add up, and noticing that is enough for now. You are in good company in the noticing, better company than you might think. Lie back. Let the stars go slightly out of focus, and it turns out that people have been lying awake with that same question for a very long time. Every good question gathers its own small family of people over time, and this one gathered some of the gentlest in the history of science. Their story is worth telling slowly, the way bedtime stories are told, because it stretches across 400 years and it never once hurries. Nobody in it shouts or races anyone or wins anything. A few careful souls scattered across centuries and countries. Each lay awake with the same question you are holding now, and each passed it along a little clearer than they found it. Astronomy has faster stories than this one, but none more patient, and patience is the mood of the night. The first of them, for our purposes, is Johannes Kepler. In the year 1610, he was one of the great sky watchers of Europe, the man who worked out the true shape of the paths the planets follow, and word reached him of a bold new idea that the universe might be endless, an infinite field sown evenly with stars, going on forever in every direction. Kepler turned the idea over and found that it troubled him, and his reason was the night itself. If the universe truly were endless and filled with stars, he reasoned, then the night could not be dark. Darkness overhead was, to him, quiet evidence that the stars must come to an end somewhere. Notice what he did there, because it is lovely. He did not need a telescope for it, or an expedition, or anything but a window and honesty. What he had was ordinary night, the same night everyone else was sleeping through, and he heard it saying something about the size of everything. Then he wrote his thought down and went on with his work, and the question waited. Questions like this one are good at waiting. This one would sit mostly quiet for the better part of a century, passing from reader to reader, until it found the next person willing to lie awake with it. Early in the 1700s, the question found Edmund Halley. You may know his name already. He is the comet astronomer, the one who realized that a certain bright visitor kept returning to our skies, and whose comet still carries his name. Halley was a practical, good-humored man who spent his life on tides and stars and long voyages, and he took the dark night sky up as a serious piece of unfinished business. Standing before his fellow astronomers, he laid the puzzle out plainly, that an endless field of stars seemed to promise an endless blaze, and the heavens were plainly not blazing. His answers did not quite settle it, and he seems to have sensed as much. the question was passed along again, a little better lit than before. It helps to remember how dark their nights actually were. No city glow reached these people, and no lamplight to speak of beyond a candle or two, put out early. When Kepler or Halley stepped outside after dark, the full night sky came down around them, the way it now comes down only in the remotest places. Thousands of stars, the Milky Way plain overhead, and everywhere between the stars that same deep black. The question was not hidden away in an observatory. It hung over every town and every farm, over everyone, every clear night, in plain sight of anyone who chose to look up and wonder. Next came a quieter figure still, a young Swiss astronomer named Jean-Philippe Loys de Saussure. In 1744, he did something new with the old worry. Instead of only asking why the sky was dark, he sat down and worked out how bright it ought to be, if the stars truly went on without end. His arithmetic led somewhere astonishing. Add up the light of star behind star behind star, shell upon shell of them out to forever, and the whole sky should burn with brilliance, every corner of it brighter by far than anything in human experience. And yet, outside his window the night lay perfectly black, as it always had. He had turned a vague wondering into a real measure of just how strange the darkness is. Then, at last, the puzzle found the man whose name it would keep. Heinrich Wilhelm Olbers was a physician in the German city of Bremen, a doctor by day, and by every account, a kind and steady one. At night, after his patients slept, he would climb to the top of his house and watch the sky, hour upon hour. An amateur in the oldest and best sense. Someone who did it purely for love. Comets came to him in those quiet hours, and slowly, year by year, so did the old question of the darkness. In 1823, he set the puzzle down so clearly and so carefully that it has carried his name ever since. Olbers' paradox. There is something fitting in the fact that the puzzle's namesake was a doctor. His days were spent at bedsides, keeping watch over sleepers, and his nights were spent keeping watch over the sky. And the two kinds of watching may not be so different. Both ask for patience, more than brilliance. Neither can be hurried. And a man who sat calmly with fevers until they broke was perhaps exactly the right man to sit just as calmly with a question that had already outlasted several human lifetimes and would go on to outlast his. Here is the paradox, laid out as plainly as it can be, and you can let it wash over you rather than work at it. Suppose the universe is infinite, going on forever in every direction. Imagine, too, that it is eternal, with no beginning, so that starlight from everywhere has had forever to arrive. And suppose the stars are spread evenly through all of it, on and on without end. Grant those three things, and a strange conclusion follows as surely as morning. Every single line of sight, from your eye out into the sky, in any direction whatsoever, must sooner or later land on the surface of a star. Think of what that would mean. Near or unimaginably far, faint or bright, a star would wait at the end of every gaze, with no exceptions, and nowhere for a line of sight to slip through and go on forever. The gaps between the near stars would be filled by farther stars, and the gaps between those by farther ones still, until no gap remained anywhere at all. Under those three assumptions, the whole sky, every point of it would glow like the surface of the Sunday day and night, forever. Noon would never end. There would be no cool of the evening, no first star, no bedtime dark, no night at all. And yet, of course, the night is dark. You have seen it yourself, tonight or some other night, the deep and total black between the stars. Both things cannot stand together. Either the reasoning fails somewhere, or the universe is not what that picture assumed. The reasoning, checked and rechecked across the centuries, holds up. So the picture is what has to give. Somewhere in that calm list of assumptions, infinite, eternal, unchanging, evenly filled with stars, at least one of them is simply wrong, and the plain black sky over an ordinary house is the proof. Sit with how gentle that is, as discoveries go. No instrument found it, and no expedition. The darkness itself was the evidence, hanging over every generation that ever slept, waiting for someone to take it seriously. A dark night sky is not an absence of information. It is a message, written in the plainest ink. There is telling us something true about the shape and the story of everything. For a long time, nobody could quite read it. To read that message, the first thing to look at is the argument itself, and the best place to see the argument clearly is not the sky at all, but a forest. Picture a small stand of trees at the edge of a meadow, late on a warm evening. The kind of place you might have walked 100 times without once thinking of the sky. Only a few trunks rise around you here, and between them the open grass shows through easily, pale and wide and full of the last light. You can see the meadow in almost every direction, framed by bark, interrupted only a little. Each tree hides one narrow slice of the distance, and nothing more. The world beyond the grove is still mostly visible, still mostly open, and the trees feel like guests in the emptiness rather than owners of it. Hold that image loosely for a moment, without any effort, because tonight it is going to do some very gentle work for us. Walk a little deeper now, in your mind, only one slow step at a time, with the grass giving way to moss and the light growing soft and green. With every step, a few more trunks slide quietly into the spaces between the ones you already knew, and the meadow behind them begins to narrow. Gaps that were wide become slivers. Slivers become threads of pale light, and then the threads thin, and some of them close altogether. Nothing dramatic happens at any single step. A trunk here, a trunk there, each one small, each one hiding only a hand's width of the distance, and yet the openness is going, softly and steadily, the way evening goes. Somewhere in the deep middle of a truly great forest, the last gap closes. Look left, and your gaze travels a little way and comes to rest on bark. Turn right, and the same thing happens. Sooner or later, near or far ahead, behind, at every angle in between. Each line of sight sets out from your eye, threads its way past a few near trunks, and ends, always, on wood. Some sight lines finish a single step away, and some reach far off into the dimness before they are caught. But every one of them is caught in the end. There is no direction left that finds the meadow. The forest has closed over, and if the trees went on forever, no clearing, no thinning, no edge at all, then no gap could ever exist anywhere. For anyone standing inside, rest inside that image for a moment, because there is no hurry to leave it. A deep forest at dusk is not a troubling place in this telling. It is a still one, hushed and roofed and close, and you are only standing in it the way you are lying now, quietly, with nothing to do. Let the trunks be soft columns in the dimness, and let the closing of the view be a kind of shelter rather than a loss. Nothing in this forest moves, and nothing in it wants anything from you. The picture is doing its patient work on its own, and you can watch it drowsily from a little distance, the way you might watch snow falling past a window. Now let the trees go gently, and let stars stand where the trunks were. An infinite universe, filled evenly with stars and left shining forever, is exactly that endless forest. Every line of sight, leaving your eye at night, would travel outward, past the near stars, between the farther ones, on and on without limit. And sooner or later, near or impossibly far, it would land on the surface of a star. No direction could miss forever, any more than a glance in the deep woods could slip between every trunk there is. Each point of the night sky would sit at the end of a sightline resting on starlight, the way each glance in the forests rests on bark, and the whole sky would close over with light, seamless and brilliant, from horizon to horizon, with no night left in it anywhere. That is the full weight of the old puzzle, felt from the inside, under an infinite and eternal sky, evenly sown with suns. There could be no darkness at all, only a ceiling of light as bright as the surface of a star above every meadow and every ocean, at midnight just as at noon. And yet, when you actually stand beneath the real sky and look up, the dark is everywhere, calm and deep and unbroken between the stars. So the forest picture, lovely and reasonable as it is, must be wrong somewhere. One of its quiet assumptions, infinite, eternal, evenly filled, does not hold. The night itself is telling us so, patiently, every time it falls. People felt the force of that argument long ago and reached, very naturally, for a first way out perhaps, they said, the light of the far stars simply never arrives. Space might be scattered with dark dust and cold drifting gas, veils and banks, and slow rivers of it, the way a forest fills with fog on an autumn morning, and perhaps those veils soak up the distant starlight long before it can reach any watching eye. It is a comforting idea and an honest one. Fog does hide the far trees. Smoke does dim a lantern across a field. Why should the deep sky be any different, with all those unimaginable miles of dust drifting between us and the farthest suns? Gently, though, the idea comes apart, because the universe is more patient than fog. Dust that swallows starlight does not swallow it into nothing. Light carries warmth, and a grain of dust that drinks in the shine of the stars, year after year, age upon age, slowly warms. Given long enough, and an eternal universe has nothing but long enough. Every dark veil in the sky would heat until it glowed, faintly at first, then thoroughly, until it shone with the very light it had been swallowing all along. The screen becomes a lamp. A curtain hung before an endless fire does not keep a room dark forever. It only waits a while, and then it quietly joins the glowing. Absorption, it turns out, can only delay the brightness. It cannot cancel it. Whatever stands in the way of eternal starlight sooner or later becomes starlight of its own. Every hiding place fills up with the very thing it was hiding. In that endless shining forest, even the fog would catch the light and hold it and give it back, and the sky would still close over, white and seamless, only a little later than before. Nothing that blocks light can rescue the darkness, because in a universe with no beginning and no end, there is always time enough for the blocked light to come through. The dark we see cannot be a curtain, then, however thick. It has to be something else, something quieter, something woven into the nature of the sky itself. So the old argument stands, and its first escape route closes as softly as it opened. Between the stars there hangs a darkness that no dust can explain, and no curtain can excuse. A darkness that by every reasonable count should not be there, and plainly is. Something deeper is going on, something about the universe itself, rather than about anything floating in it. And there is no need to reach for it yet, because it will come to us in its own time. And before we find what that is, it is worth feeling, honestly, just how much light the dark is somehow hiding. Begin close to home then, with the soft river of light that crosses the sky on a clear country night, the pale band we call the Milky Way. That glowing road is our own galaxy, seen edge on from the inside, its uncountable far suns blending into a single quiet mist overhead. Counted one by one, if anyone could ever count them, the stars of this one galaxy would run to several hundred billion suns. In the one city of stars we happen to live in, and on the darkest night, a person looking up with ordinary eyes sees, at most, a few thousand of them. The nearest lamps on our own small street, with the rest folded away into that soft band of mist, or hidden altogether. There is no need to picture such a number, because it cannot really be pictured, and tonight nothing needs to be achieved anyway. Just let it lie there, large and quiet, like a mountain passing outside the window of a night train. Every one of those suns is a real place, an actual fire hanging in an actual dark, most of them older than any story we have, each one pouring light outward in every direction, all the time, whether anyone watches or not. Our galaxy alone, then, holds light enough to seem endless. And our galaxy, it turns out, is only the first drop of the rain. In 1995, some astronomers decided to try something that sounded, at the time, almost wasteful. They took the Hubble Space Telescope, one of the most sought-after instruments in the sky, with every hour of its attention precious, and pointed it at nothing. Near the handle of the Big Dipper, they chose a patch of blackness that looked completely empty, a keyhole of night, no wider than a grain of sand, held out at arm's length, a spot picked precisely because nothing at all seemed to be there. And then, instead of glancing, they let the telescope stare, gathering the faintest trickles of light, hour after quiet hour. For 10 days, what came back was not nothing. The blackness was not black. Down in that empty keyhole, when the 10 days of gathered light were added together, there floated thousands of galaxies, layer behind layer, spirals and ovals and faint smudges of shine, each one of them not a star, but a city of stars, a whole galaxy holding billions of suns of its own. All of that had been hiding inside a piece of dark, no larger than a sand grain on an outstretched hand. Nobody had ever seen that place before, and it had been there all the while, brimming, keeping its light to itself, waiting for someone to be patient enough to look. Give each of those little smudges its due, drowsily, before we drift on. Every faint oval in that picture is a galaxy in its own right, a slow wheel of billions of suns, turning in the dark, so far away that its whole vastness fits inside a fleck of light smaller than a dust mote on the glass. Around some of those suns, there may be worlds, and on some of those worlds, nights of their own, dark and quiet and familiar. Any watcher standing in one of those nights, looking back this way, would see our entire enormous galaxy, every son of it, as one more pale smudge among thousands, easy to miss, drifting in their darkness like a snowflake that never lands. Years later, the telescope did it again, more deeply still, staring into another blank speck of sky for even longer. Astronomers called the result the ultra-deep field, and in that second pinprick of darkness, they counted about 10,000 galaxies. 10,000 cities of suns in one forgettable corner of the night, a corner you could blot out with a single grain of sand held up to the sky. It did not matter where the telescope looked, and that is the gentlest part of the whole story. Any patch chosen anywhere, above any rooftop in the world, holds the same hidden depth, the same quiet crowds of light, waiting behind the black. From stairs like those, the counting spread outward carefully, across the whole of the sky. Estimates of how many galaxies the observable universe holds begin at about 200 billion, and the more finely astronomers look, the higher the counting climbs, until some careful studies suggest as many as 2 trillion. Say that slowly, in the dark, the way you might say a word from a language you love but do not speak. 2 trillion galaxies, each one a gathering of billions of suns. Multiply those together, even loosely, and the number of stars stops meaning anything a mind can hold, which is perfectly fine, because no one is asking you to hold it tonight or ever. There is an old comparison that gets passed from stargazer to stargazer, and it happens to be true. The universe holds more stars than there are grains of sand on every beach of this whole world. Sand was supposed to be the thing that could not be counted, the very image of the numberless, yet the stars outnumber it. Somewhere out there, for every grain your hand has ever held, warm from the sun on some long ago afternoon, there is a sun, an actual burning sun, and then more suns after that, uncounted, unclaimed, most of them unseen by anyone, shining anyway, patiently, into the dark. All of that light is on its way somewhere, even now. While you lie here, the whole sky is quietly crowded with it, crossing and recrossing the dark in every direction at once. None of it colliding, none of it hurrying, each beam keeping faithfully to its own long road. Starlight from suns no one has ever named is passing near the room where you are resting, too faint to feel gentler than breath. The universe, whatever else it is generous, and it spends its light freely on every sea and every rooftop and every closed eyelid, asking nothing at all in return. None of this needs to feel like falling. Numbers that large stop being numbers at all and become something closer to weather, a vast calm fact you can rest beneath, the way you rest beneath the whole weight of the atmosphere every night, without once thinking to hold it up. Feel the wonder of it loosely, if you feel it at all, and then let the tally itself blur away, because what matters for our question is simpler and softer than any figure. The universe is not poor in light. It is overflowingly, almost embarrassingly rich in light, crowded with more shining than any sky would seem to have room for. And still, when you stand under the night and look up between the stars, there is black. Not a faint grey wash, not a dim silver haze, but deep, restful black, filling far more of the sky than the stars themselves do. 2 trillion galaxies, and the space between any two stars overhead stays dark enough to sleep beneath. Here the old puzzle reaches its full weight, and we can let it settle over us gently, like a heavy blanket drawn up on a cold night, comfortable precisely because it is heavy. Somehow, some way, nearly all the light of everything is missing from our night. And the first half of the answer has been traveling toward us all along, at the speed of light itself. Light is the fastest thing there is. Nothing outruns it, no sound, no signal, no falling thing, and yet even light, the very definition of quickness, takes time. In a single second, a beam of it crosses about 186,000 miles. And that sentence is easy to say and impossible to picture, which is fine, because tonight we are not going to try to picture it. We are only going to notice one soft consequence of that speed, and then follow the consequence, slowly and without any effort, all the way out into the dark, where it becomes the first half of our answer. Consider the moon, the nearest of all our night companions, close enough that its light and shadow fall on your own street. Even at 186,000 miles a second, light needs more than a second to cross the gap between the moon and an upturned face. So the moon you see on any evening is not quite the moon of this moment. It is the moon of a heartbeat ago, a little more than 1 second in the past, delivered late, the way every letter is delivered late. Nothing about that lateness troubles the eye, and no one has ever noticed it while looking. Still, it is quietly there, in every moonlit room you have ever slept in. Sunlight runs later still. Light leaving the Sunday takes about 8 minutes to reach this world. 8 whole minutes of crossing silent, unlit space before it can rest on a garden, or a rooftop, or a face turned upward on some slow afternoon. Think what that means, drowsily, without gripping it. The sunshine lying across a field is 8 minutes old on arrival. Warmth that touches your skin in the morning left the Sunday, while you were still deciding whether to open your eyes. We never feel the Sunday as it is, only as it was a little while ago, and nobody in the whole long history of people standing in the light has ever once felt otherwise. Notice how the pattern grows as the distances do. Nearby things are barely late at all, and the farther a light has had to come, the older it is when it finally arrives. Always, everywhere, with no exceptions anywhere in nature, distance and delay turn out to be the same thing wearing 2 different coats. A mile of space is also a sliver of time, and a great gulf of space is a great gulf of time. And there is no way, anywhere ever, to look across distance without also looking across ago. Once you feel that, and you need only feel it faintly, half asleep, the night sky begins to change its meaning without changing its appearance at all. Step beyond the Sunday, and the lateness deepens from minutes into years. The nearest star after our own is a small dim sun called Proxima Centauri, and its light arriving tonight is a little more than 4 years old, 4 years of steady crossing at the greatest speed there is, just to reach the very next lamp on the street. When that light set out, your life held different worries and different rooms and perhaps different people, and the light knew nothing of any of it and came on anyway, calm and constant through all those seasons, to end its long journey on whatever eye happened to be open, or on no eye at all, on stone, on water, on the quiet roof of a sleeping house. Farther out, the years become lifetimes, and then far more than lifetimes. On a truly dark autumn night, away from every town, a person with ordinary eyes can just make out a faint elongated smudge of glow in the constellation called Andromeda. That soft smudge is the great galaxy beyond our own, and it is the farthest thing most human eyes can see without any help at all. Its light is 2.5 million years old on the night it lands. 2.5 million years. And when that glow began its journey, there were no cities on this world, no lamps, no windows, no one waiting up. The light simply set out and kept on, and somewhere near the end of its long crossing, someone finally stood in a field and happened to look up. So a quiet rule emerges, perhaps the gentlest rule in all of astronomy. To look out is to look back. Every glance at the sky is a glance into the past, layered with different depths of ago. The moon offers a moment ago, the Sunday a few minutes, the nearest star a handful of years, that faint far smudge a few million, and every telescope peering deeper receives light that is older still. Nobody has ever seen the universe as it is. All anyone has ever seen, from the first upturned face to the newest observatory on the coldest mountaintop, is the universe as it was, arriving softly in layers after long delay. Rest with that image a while, because it is a good one to fall asleep inside. The night sky is not a picture of now. It is a long, layered photograph of befores, thousands of separate pasts arriving together, all landing gently on one small eye in one shared moment. Two stars that seem to sit side by side may be handing you two entirely different ages. One only years old, the other many centuries deep, mingled in a single glance without the least confusion. Every telescope seen this way is a kind of patient memory, an instrument for listening to what the universe said a long time ago. And the plain night over your roof is the deepest archive there has ever been, open and silent and free to anyone. None of it asks to be remembered. Let the ages blur together, the way distant hills blur into one blue line at dusk. Somewhere overhead, this very moment, light that began its crossing before your grandparents were born is quietly ending its journey on the roof, on the garden, on the sea, and light far older than that is passing by without stopping on its way to somewhere else entirely. The traffic of the sky is all arrivals and no urgency. Whatever reaches us tonight set out exactly as long ago as it needed to, and whatever has not reached us yet is still coming, unhurried, missing nothing, losing nothing, sure of its road. And here, at last, the old riddle begins, very softly, to loosen. If light takes time, then seeing is waiting, and the sky we see holds only what has already had time to arrive. Perhaps then, the darkness between the stars is not a report about what exists. It may be a report about what has reached us so far, a matter not of emptiness, but of timing, as if the night were a station where most of the trains are simply still on their way. Hold the idea as loosely as you are holding everything else by now, slow and low and easy, and let it carry you toward the answer's quiet heart. That small thought, light as it is, was the very key that finally turned the old lock. Feel that key turn, slowly, the way old locks turn, with a weight that is almost kind. For nearly 400 years, the puzzle had rested on three quiet assumptions: that the universe is infinite, that it is eternal, and that it has always been very much the same, and no one could say which of the three was mistaken. The thought that light takes time touches the middle one, the gentlest of them, and the middle one gives way. Eternity is the piece that was wrong. Nothing needs to happen quickly now. The lock has waited centuries, and it can open at the pace of your breathing. Let it swing wide in its own slow time, and let what lies behind it come to you softly, because what lies behind it is a morning. The universe, it turns out, has an age. It is not an endless hall of stars with no first day. It began, and it has been unfolding ever since, the way a long night unfolds toward dawn. Its age has been measured, patiently, from many directions at once, and the answers agree with one another in a way that lets everyone rest, about 13.8 billion years. Say the number the way you would say the age of a mountain without trying to feel its whole weight. 13.8 billion years, a span deep enough to hold every star that has ever formed, and still, it is a span, a length, a something with a near end and a far one. However vast, it is not forever. And that small difference between vast and forever is the whole answer to the dark. We know this most finely because of a quiet European satellite named Planck, which spent years far from the Earth, doing almost nothing but listening. It turned its instruments toward the oldest light in the sky, light that has been traveling since before there were stars at all, and it read that light the way you might read the rings of a very old tree. From those faint patterns the age of everything emerged, gently, to a fineness earlier generations could only dream toward. There was no drama in the finding, no single midnight of discovery, only years of patient staring and a number settling slowly out of the noise. Astronomy is like that at its best, a long quiet listening, and the universe seems to answer most clearly the things that are asked most calmly. Now hold the two ideas side by side, softly, without any effort. Light moves at a certain speed, and the universe has a certain age. Put those together, and something follows all on its own, with no need for you to push. There is only so far we can see. Light from farther away than the age of the universe allows has simply not arrived, however long anyone waits up for it, because it has not had time around us. Then there is a kind of finite ocean of space, everything near enough that its light has managed the crossing, and astronomers call it the observable universe. Beyond its far shore, the universe almost certainly continues, on and on. But no news from out there has reached us yet, and none can, for now. Think of what that means for the stars we cannot see. They are not missing, and they are not dim. They are simply early, or rather we are, and their light is still on the road. A star can be entirely real, burning in its own quiet corner of the deep, and yet lend nothing at all to our night, because its first light has not finished the journey. Somewhere beyond the edge of the scene, there are suns whose glow will not touch any sky of ours for billions of years to come. Nothing is withheld, and nothing is hidden. The mail is simply still in transit, moving as fast as anything can move, and arriving unhurried in its own long order. And here the old argument quietly comes apart, not broken, only answered gently. The paradox imagined an infinite field of stars, in which every line of sight must end on a star, the way every gaze in a deep forest ends, sooner or later, on a trunk. Yet the forest we can actually see is not endless. It reaches only as far as light has had time to travel. When your gaze slips between the near stars and runs outward, it does not land on some impossibly distant sun. it runs out of universe first. Follow any line of sight far enough, and it arrives not at a wall of starlight, but at the beginning itself, at the first age of everything, before the stars were lit. Between the stars, you are looking at the morning of the universe, strangely and rather beautifully. It was not an astronomer who saw this first. It was a poet. In 1848, Edgar Allan Poe, near the end of his life, wrote a long prose poem called Eureka, and in it he guessed at the answer with nothing but thought to guide him. The darkness between the stars, he wrote, might be space so distant that no light from it has yet been able to reach us at all. He had no telescope and no equations, only a poet's willingness to take an enormous idea gently in his hands and turn it over. His guess sat quietly in the world for half a century, mostly unread as science. A small candle of an idea waiting for someone to notice it was burning. Someone did. In 1901, the physicist Lord Kelvin, an old man by then, sat down with the poet's intuition and did the arithmetic. He worked out how far a sky full of stars would need to extend and how long their light would need to travel for the night to blaze the way the paradox demanded, and he found that the numbers simply do not get there. If the stars have not been shining forever, the sky cannot be full. At the bottom of his careful pages lay the same piece. The poet had reached in a single leap. The night is dark because the light has not had time. Two very different minds, half a century apart, one arriving by feel and one by figures, and the same soft answer waiting for them both. So this is the first half of the answer, and you can let it settle over you like a blanket drawn up slowly. The night is dark because the universe is young. It is unfinished, still early in its own long story, like a great theatre in the minutes before the performance, where only the nearest lamps have been lit and the rows behind them fade away into shadow. Or say it more truly, the farthest lamps are burning already, every one of them, and their light is simply still on its way down the long aisles toward your seat. Nothing about the dark is a refusal. It is only the hush before an arrival, held open across billions of years, patient beyond any waiting you have ever done. Let yourself rest inside that thought, or let it go entirely. It will keep either way. Somewhere out in the deep, light that will one day belong to this planet's night sky is crossing the dark right now. At this very moment, while you breathe and grow heavier and sink a little further towards sleep. The sky is still filling in. In other words, slowly, gently, over spans no lifetime could ever notice, as more and more of the morning arrives. None of it needs you to watch. And there is a second half to the answer, quieter still, about what happens to light that crosses a universe that will not hold still. That second half begins in the 1920s on a mountain in California, where an astronomer named Edwin Hubble spent his nights at the eyepiece of what was then the largest telescope on Earth. Night after night, he photographed the faint spirals scattered across the sky, the other galaxies, each one an island of billions of suns, and he began to measure how they move. What he found was simple to state and very large to hold. Nearly all of them are drifting away from us. The farther a galaxy lies, the faster it recedes, as if the whole deep field of them was slowly spreading apart, everything easing away from everything else, calmly in every direction at once. He measured it the way everything real gets measured, slowly point by point, over years, until the pattern could no longer be doubted. At first, That sounds like flight, like a great scattering, but it is gentler than that, and stranger. The galaxies are not rushing through space the way a thrown thing rushes through air. Space itself is stretching, the distances themselves growing, the way the space between two marks on rising bread dough grows while neither mark ever moves through the dough at all. No galaxy feels any motion. Each one rests quietly where it is, and the between simply widens everywhere, all the time, slowly and without any center, so that from every galaxy it looks the same, all the others easing away. Ours is not being left behind. Nothing is. The whole quiet fabric is loosening evenly, like a breath being let out. Now think of a single beam of light, set loose from some far galaxy long ago, crossing that widening quiet on its way to us. Light is a wave, a soft rhythmic thing, crest after crest, like ripples moving across a pond. And when the space it is crossing stretches, the light stretches with it. Its waves grow longer as they travel, drawn out, mile by patient mile, over the whole immense journey. A wave that set out short and blue arrives longer and redder than it began. The color slid gently down the scale, the way a voice sounds lower when a recording is played slowly. Nothing harsh happens to the light in all this. It is only lengthened, eased, relaxed along the whole of its journey. Astronomers call it redshift, and it is written across the entire sky, in the light of nearly everything far away. For the farthest light, the oldest light, the stretching does not stop at red. Red is only the last color an eye can catch, the deep end of the little keyboard our seeing was built around. Light stretched further keeps going, past red entirely, out into the long slow waves called infrared, which we feel, when we feel them at all, only as warmth. Farther still, it stretches into waves longer than that, quieter than that. The oldest light in the universe has been drawn out so far by its journey that it has slipped off the visible page altogether, out beyond the margins, into registers no eye was ever tuned to. It still arrives. It only arrives in silence. There is a lovely way to say what the universe is doing. It is lowering its own lamps. Nothing out there has been put out, and no light has been lost. The lamps have only been turned down the spectrum, shifted, softly and steadily, into colors made for other instruments than eyes. A sky that would have blazed is instead humming below the threshold of seeing, all its brightness intact, all of it present, just carried the way a song can be carried into a lower key until it sits beneath hearing. The dimming of the deep sky is not a loss of light. It is a change of address, the same letters delivered to a door we do not have. Somewhere in the house of the sky, the letters keep arriving anyway, stacked and patient, waiting for instruments kind enough to read them. This is also why the newest of the great space telescopes, called Webb, was built the way it was. Its makers shaped it not for the colors of the human eye, but for the infrared, the stretched light, the reddened registers where the early universe now writes. Where an ordinary telescope sees mostly darkness, Webb reads the old letters in their shifted ink, galaxies from near the beginning of time, their light drawn long and low by the whole history of expansion it crossed to arrive. Every image it returns is in a quiet way, a translation, brightness carried back up into colors we can see, the deep past lifted gently within reach of a human eye that was never built for it. Far from the earth, In deep cold and deep quiet, it listens for warmth older than the stars. So the bright sky that Olbers imagined is dimmed twice over, and both dimmings are gentle. Once by time, because the universe is young and most of the light has not arrived, and once by stretching, because the light that has arrived from the farthest deeps has been drawn out past the reach of our eyes along the way. Neither one is a wall, and neither one is an absence. Together they are more like distance and hush, the two softenings every far thing undergoes. The way a lamp across a wide valley is both late and faint, its glow thinned by everything it crossed to find you. Both of them are simply what happens when a universe this large and this young carries light this far. Say the whole of it in one slow breath, if you like, and then let the words go. The dark between the stars is starlight postponed and starlight transposed. Some of the light has not had time to reach us. Some has reached us in colors we cannot see. And between those two gentlenesses lies the whole answer to a 400-year-old question. Nothing about the night is missing anything. All the brightness the old astronomers reasoned toward is real. And it is out there, and it is even here, passing through this very room, through the dark behind your eyelids, unfelt, on its long way to somewhere else. Nothing needs correcting in the night sky. It was telling the truth about time all along. You do not have to hold any of this. Like everything tonight, it holds itself, and it has been holding itself for billions of years without anyone's help. If your thoughts have already begun to loosen and wander, let them wander. The stretching dark asks nothing of you, and the voice will keep going quietly whether you follow it or not. Somewhere very far from here, at this moment, a wave of ancient light is lengthening as it travels, easing down the spectrum like a sleeper easing deeper into a pillow. And it will still be traveling, still softening, long after tonight has folded into all your other nights. Rest is the only thing this hour asks of you. And the loveliest part of the whole story is still ahead, only a breath away now. Olbers, remember, argued that the entire sky should glow, every point of it, with no gap and no seam. He was told for a century afterward that the dark had answered him, that the argument had quietly failed. As it turns out, nothing failed at all. The bright sky he imagined is still there all around us, whole and unbroken, waiting behind the night. If we look with the right kind of eyes, because the whole sky does glow. Everywhere, in every direction, at every hour, the entire dome of the heavens is quietly shining, and it has been shining since before the earth existed. No corner of the night is exempt, and no patch between the stars is truly black. What fills the darkness is light of a kind, real light, the oldest there is, falling steadily on every face turned upward and on every face asleep. Human eyes were simply never given the color it arrives in. The glow is there above your roof at this very moment, silent, even, and perfectly gentle, a sky-wide radiance pouring down through the dark like the faintest imaginable snowfall. This is the story of where it comes from. In its first age, the universe was not dark at all. It was a fog of light, brilliant everywhere, a glowing mist of matter and radiance so dense that no ray could travel more than a little way before being turned aside. Nothing could shine across such a fog, because everything was shining in it. For about 380,000 years, it stayed that way, bright and blind at once, cooling slowly as it stretched. And then, gently, as the warmth eased past a certain softness, the fog condensed, atoms formed and held. The mist went clear, the way a steamed window clears, and all that trapped light was set loose in a single moment, everywhere at once, free at last to travel in straight lines across an open universe. Astronomers call it the moment the universe became transparent. And in a sense, it was the first clear morning, the first time the deep could be seen across at all. That light has been traveling ever since. It has never stopped, and never landed, and never been gathered back in. It has simply gone on crossing space, as space itself widened around it, for the whole life of the universe, from that first clear morning to this particular night of yours. Some of it is arriving right now. Every second, a little of the first light of everything comes to the end of its journey against the surface of the earth, against rooftops and oceans, and the closed eyelids of sleepers, having traveled longer than the stars are old. There is no older light to wait for. Nothing in the universe predates it. Every other light is younger, a child beside it. This is the beginning itself, still arriving, still gentle, still everywhere. By the time it reaches us, the long journey has transformed it. Light that set out as a brilliant glow has been stretched more than 1,000-fold by the widening of space, drawn out wave by wave across billions of years, down past red, past infrared, into the long soft register of microwaves. It arrives not as brightness, but as the faintest imaginable warmth, a hush of radiation with a temperature of about 2.7 degrees above absolute zero, just the smallest breath above the coldest cold there can be, and it is astonishingly even. Measure it in any direction, toward any patch of sky, and the same soft temperature answers, the same in every direction, as if the whole sky were one surface, one ember, cooling in perfect unison. Evenness like that is its own kind of lullaby, the entire sky holding one long, low note. The finding of it is a kind and slightly funny story. In 1965, two engineers in New Jersey, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, were working with a large horn-shaped antenna, a great metal ear built for listening to satellites. Wherever they pointed it, they heard a soft, stubborn hum that should not have been there. They checked the wiring, and checked the city, and checked the seasons. The hum remained. At one point, they climbed inside the horn itself and cleaned out the pigeons that had nested there, and scrubbed away everything the pigeons had left behind, certain the noise must live somewhere in the instrument. Still, the hum went on, day and night, summer and winter, the same in every direction they turned it. What they had found, without meaning to, was the afterglow of the beginning. That soft hum was the first light of the universe, arriving from every part of the sky at once, exactly as it had been arriving all along, unnoticed over every night in human history. Down the road, as it happened, a group of physicists had lately worked out that such a glow ought to exist and had begun planning how to search for it. And when the two groups finally spoke, each held the other's missing half. The engineers had the sound, the theorists had the meaning. Few discoveries have ever been gentler. Nobody raced anyone, and nothing flashed or thundered. Two patient men simply refused to ignore a whisper, and the whisper turned out to be the oldest voice there is. In the years that followed, that whisper was listened to with more and more tenderness. A satellite named Cobe rose above the air, and mapped the glow across the entire sky and found it almost perfectly smooth, patterned only by ripples, so faint they are like the texture of breath on glass. Later, a mission called WMAP traced those ripples more finely, and later still the European satellite Planck, the same quiet listener that gave the universe its age, drew the finest portrait of all. Across every map, the glow is whole and unbroken, covering the sky with no gap and no seam, the entire heavens, rendered in one continuous, soft light. Those faint ripples, for what it is worth, are the small unevennnesses that would slowly gather into galaxies. The seeds of everything, though tonight they can simply be texture, the grain of the oldest photograph there is. And so, in the gentlest way imaginable, Olbers was right. His argument, remember, said that in a universe full of light, the whole sky should glow, every point of it, with no dark left between the stars. It does. The sky is a wall of light after all. Exactly as the old reasoning demanded, every direction ending in brightness, the entire dome luminous from horizon to horizon and pole to pole. Only the color is other than he imagined. Instead of the blaze of countless suns, the wall glows in the stretched, cooled, invisible light of the beginning itself. The one surface every line of sight truly ends on, the far inner wall of time. So the night sky is not dark after all. It only looks dark to us, to these particular eyes, tuned to their little range on this one small world. Seen honestly, in the fullness of every color there is, the heavens above your roof are glowing from edge to edge tonight. The oldest light in existence, resting evenly over your house like a second softer atmosphere. Darkness, it turns out, was never the truth of the night, only the translation our eyes could manage. Sit with that a while, or sleep with it, which is better. The whole sky is gently alight, and always has been, over every night of your life, over every night of everyone's life, and it asks nothing, and it never has. Let the thought dissolve now, the way warmth dissolves into a blanket. Nothing more needs understanding tonight. The sky will keep glowing whether anyone understands it or not, and the hush of the first morning will go on falling, evenly on the just asleep and the long asleep alike. Breathe out slowly, and let the pillow take a little more of you. Far overhead, the oldest light there continues its endless soft arrival. And not long ago, a small spacecraft, drifting far past the last of the planets, was asked a question about all of this, and it answered with the darkest sky anyone has ever measured. There is a traveler out there who knows the darkness better than anyone, and it is not a person at all. In 2006, a small spacecraft called New Horizons left the Earth on a long, quiet errand aimed at the farthest of the old familiar worlds, and it has been drifting outward ever since. No one rides aboard it. It carries only its instruments, its faint radio voice, and a great deal of patience, coasting through the dark year after year, while the world it came from turns beneath its own weather far behind. Think of it as a lantern bearer without a lantern, walking out past the last of the streetlights on our behalf, going farther from home than almost anything we have ever made, simply so that it can look around and tell us softly what it sees. In 2015, it swept gently past Pluto, that small patient world at the edge of the old maps, and sent home pictures of ice mountains and soft frozen plains that no eye had ever seen. And then it kept going. Past Pluto, there was no next destination marked for it. only the long open dark, and the little spacecraft settled into it, the way a swimmer settles into deep water, unhurried and calm. It flies out there still. By now, it is more than 50 times farther from the Sunday than the Earth is, so far that the Sunday itself has thinned to a bright and heatless point behind it, and every message it sends home takes hours to arrive, whispering across all that quiet at the speed of light. Why send a question about darkness to a machine so far away? Because near the planets, strangely enough, space is never quite dark. The inner solar system is dusted through with countless fine grains, the slow crumbs of comets and of old collisions, and every one of those grains catches a little sunlight and scatters it onward. Together they raise a faint veil around our skies, a glow so soft that it usually goes unnoticed, though on the clearest nights it can be seen leaning up from the horizon like the ghost of a lamp. Astronomers call it the zodiacal glow, and it brightens every measurement made from here, the way a thin mist brightens a night street. Even our finest telescopes, floating above the atmosphere, still float inside that gentle haze of lit dust, and every dark image they take is washed, just faintly with its light. Out where New Horizons flies, the veil is gone. Almost none of that fine dust drifts so far from the Sunday, and the little sunlight that reaches there is far too weak to make a haze of what remains. For the first time, a camera could look at the sky with nothing at all in the way. No air, no city glow, no mist of shining grains, nothing between its eye and the deep universe, but distance itself. So the astronomers asked their far traveler to do a simple and lovely thing. Turn, they said in effect, toward a stretch of sky with no bright stars and no known galaxies, a patch of plain, ordinary blackness, and tell us honestly how dark the darkness really is. The little spacecraft did as it was asked. It pointed its camera at nothing, held very still, and gathered the faint light of the emptiest sky anyone has ever looked upon. What came back was the darkest measurement ever made, a sky roughly 10 times darker than the one the Hubble telescope sees from its orbit around the Earth. Hold that gently for a moment. All the darkness we have ever measured from home, every deep black image from every great observatory, was brightened, just a little, by the dust of our own neighborhood, the way a bedroom is brightened by a nightlight down the hall. Only far out there, past the last of the planets, does the true night of the universe finally show itself, and it is deeper and cleaner and stiller than any night we can see from here. And in that purest black there was a small surprise, the kind that makes astronomers smile rather than sigh. The darkness was not perfectly dark. A faint whisper of light remained, spread evenly across the sky, and when everything known had been carefully subtracted, the stars, the counted galaxies, the last thin traces of dust, some of that whisper was still there, unexplained. Measured softly, the sky out there carries about twice as much faint light as all the galaxies anyone has ever counted can account for. Somewhere in the deep, something dim is shining, and we have not yet met it. The universe, it turns out, keeps one more small lamp burning beyond the edge of our lists, and it has not yet told us where. No one is certain what that extra light is, and no one needs to be, least of all tonight. Perhaps the universe holds many more small faint galaxies than we have counted, little settlements of stars too dim for even our deepest surveys, each adding its unnoticed candle to the whole. Or there may be stray stars adrift in the spaces between the galaxies, suns that slipped loose from their homes long ago and now wander the dark alone, still shining, still warm, belonging to no sky in particular. Either answer would be a gentle one. Both would simply mean there is more quiet light in the universe than we knew, more small fires banked in the dark than anyone has yet managed to count. There is something warm-hearted in how glad the astronomers are about it. A finished sky, fully counted and fully explained, would be a lonelier one, a house with every room lit and every drawer inventoried. Instead, the universe keeps one soft secret, a faint glow with no name yet, patient in the far dark, waiting for whoever looks next. Nothing about it is urgent. The extra light has been out there all along, and it will still be out there, unhurried, whenever we finally learn its story, however long the learning takes. Questions like that one are good company for a sleeping world. They ask nothing of you. Somewhere far past Pluto, a small quiet machine drifts on through the deepest night ever measured, holding that little mystery for all of us, the way a child holds a firefly loosely in careful hands. Let that picture rest with you a while. The darkest sky anyone has ever measured, and even that sky, gently and faintly, declining to be completely dark. Wherever you look, however far, there is always some small light on its way. Darkness, it seems, is never quite finished, never absolute, only deep. And the deeper we go, the more softly it glows. That feels like the right kind of truth to fall asleep beside. The night is vast, and the night is kind, and even at the very bottom of it, something faint is shining. And there is one more gentle reason. The night is dark, and it may be the kindest of them all. That last reason has to do with the stars themselves, and with how patient they are. Every star that has ever shone is burning through a supply that will not last forever. A star is not a lamp wired to some endless grid. It is more like a candle of unimaginable size, lit once, spending itself slowly and faithfully over spans of time that make whole mountain ranges look brief. Nothing about that should trouble you. Stars have mornings of their own, and long golden afternoons and evenings, and each one keeps to its own unhurried schedule, written into it on the day it first began to glow. The sky we sleep beneath is not a fixed array of everlasting lights. It is a slow procession, a taking of turns, stretched across more time than the mind was ever asked to hold. Take our own Sunday, the lamp we live beside. It will shine for about 10 billion years in all, from its first kindling to its last long quiet. And that span is not something you need to hold on to. It is only a way of saying that even the steadiest light you have ever known is, in the end, a guest. Every sunrise you have ever seen is one line of a very long book, a book still far from its final page. There is nothing sorrowful in this. A candle is not sad for burning, and a summer is not sorry for leaning toward autumn. The Sunday is simply spending its light the way all stars do, generously at its own pace, on a schedule so long that a whole human life sees only a single sentence of it. Smaller stars are more patient still, the most patient of all. Scattered everywhere through the galaxy are little red suns, dim and cool and unassuming, each one thrifty with its light in a way our Sunday is not. Where a great star spends itself in a bright hurry, these small ones sip. Their supply lasts trillions of years, which is longer than the universe has yet existed, longer by far. Think gently about what that means. Not one of those small red stars anywhere in the universe has ever gone out. Every red dwarf ever kindled is still burning tonight. All of them together, the entire first generation of them still on their first long evening. Whatever else the universe has finished, it has not yet finished a single one of its smallest lamps. Stars are also born unevenly across time. The universe has not always made them at the same steady rate, and the great age of star-making, its busiest season, lies billions of years behind us now. Back then, the galaxies were young and rich with gas, and new suns kindled in vast bright nurseries, far faster than they do today. That season has softened. These days, the universe lights its lamps more slowly, more carefully, one here and one there, the way a house settles down for the evening. Most of the day's business done, a few rooms still glowing, someone moving quietly from window to window, turning things down low. Nothing has stopped. The making of stars goes on all around us tonight, only calmer now, with the easy, unhurried air of a place that knows it has plenty of time. Here is the soft consequence of all that. At any one moment, only some of all the stars that will ever exist are actually shining. Many burned long ago and have gone quiet, and many more have not yet been born, their gas still drifting unlit in the cold spaces between the stars, waiting for gravity to gather it up in some far age to come. The full company of stars never stands on the stage at once. Starlight, you could say, takes its turns, the way voices take turns in a long and courteous conversation. No one speaking over anyone else. The whole story told slowly across the whole of time, with pauses no one is in any hurry to fill. And so the night sky is dark, in part for this simple, tender reason: the light of the universe is spread thin across deep time. No single night, however clear, however dark, can ever show more than a little of it. We live in one quiet hour of a very long night. Ours is not the blazing beginning, when the sky churned with newborn suns, and it is nowhere near the far dim reaches of the future either. This hour sits somewhere in the early evening of things, lamps still being lit, lamps still arriving, the great house of the universe warm and settled and going about its slow business, in no hurry at all to be done. Say it as evening then, not ending, because evening is what it truly is. The small red stars burning tonight will still be burning when the universe is 100 times its present age, still faithful, still quietly at work, long after nights beyond counting have come and gone. Children of stars not yet born will look up in eras we cannot imagine and see skies we would not recognize, and their nights will be dark too, and gentle for these same patient reasons. The story is early. However old the universe may sound, it is young against the lifetimes of its own smallest stars, the way a single morning is young against a whole long summer. Most of the light, in other words, has either not yet arrived or not yet been made. Nothing about that is loss. A field in early spring is not a failed field, because the flowers are still seeds, and an orchestra tuning is not a song gone wrong. The universe is simply unfinished, in the most hopeful sense of that word. its fullest brightness still ahead of it, its patience longer than anything we have a name for. You are resting tonight inside a very young story, beneath lamps that have barely begun. Let the weight of your body settle a little deeper as you hold that, or as you let it go, whichever comes easier now. The stars are in no hurry, and neither is this telling, and nothing in the sky above your roof needs you to stay for the rest of it. If sleep has been gathering at the edges of your mind for a while now, this would be a lovely place to let it in, and the last of the answer will keep perfectly well without you. Somewhere overhead, the patient lamps are keeping their long watch, taking their turns, minding the night for you. And so, at last, the whole answer can be said in one quiet breath. Here it is, then, the whole of it, gathered into one soft pass. The sky is dark at night because the universe is young, and because it is stretching, and because starlight is patient and takes its turns. Light from the farthest suns has not had time to reach us, for all its speed, and so most lines of sight end, not on a star, but on the beginning itself. Whatever has managed to cross the growing distances arrives stretched thin, its colors lowered gently past the reach of our eyes, still glowing, only in registers we need other instruments to hear. And the stars themselves are rationed across deep time. Some long finished, most not yet begun, so that no single night is ever asked to hold all the light there will ever be. No piece of it was ever hiding. The pieces only needed to be laid side by side, slowly, the way we have laid them tonight. That is the whole answer, and every part of it is gentle. Between any two stars, then, the blackness you see is not a wall, and it is not an absence, it is distance, and it is time. The dark holds the light of farther suns, still on its way, crossing toward you at this very moment, through spaces too wide to hurry over. Deep within it, too, is the glow of the beginning, shifted by its long journey into a silence, our eyes red as black, warming the whole sky evenly from behind the night. And the dark keeps the places where the lamps of the far future will one day stand, their makings already drifting there in the cold, unlit and waiting for their turn. Nothing in that blackness is missing, everything in it is early or stretched or on its way, and all of it together is a kind of patience made visible. And so we come back to where we began tonight, at a window, after dark, looking up. The same glass, the same quiet room behind you, the same scattered stars in the same deep field. Nothing out there has changed in the hours we have been away, and yet all of it can look different now. The way a familiar face looks different once you know its story. Between those stars, the black is no longer a blank. You can see it now for what it is, the visible depth of time itself. The universe's own long memory resting overhead, reaching back and back through every age the light has crossed, all the way to the first morning of things. Every clear night, that whole memory stands open above the rooftops, quietly, for anyone at any window. Perhaps someone else is at a window tonight too, somewhere far from you, looking up at the same slow sky and wondering the same old question without knowing its name. People always have. Long before anyone could answer it, the question kept gentle company with shepherds and sailors and children up past their bedtime, and it never once hurt anyone to hold it. Tonight, you can hold the answer instead, or not hold anything at all. Either way, the sky goes on with its patient work above you. Light arriving, light stretching, light waiting its turn. The oldest and calmest business there is, conducted in perfect silence over every sleeping town. The child's question turns out to have the kindest of answers. Why is the night dark when the universe is so full of light? Because it is young, because it is still growing, because most of the light is still on its way. A sky that blazed from edge to edge would belong to an old, finished, motionless universe. One with nothing left coming, nothing still in the mail. Our dark sky means the opposite. It means arrival after arrival for ages beyond counting. Light already traveling toward every window on this world. Small appointments the night intends to keep long after everyone now, sleeping, has rested and risen and slept again. The dark is not the end of the light. It is the room the light is still crossing. None of this needs holding on to. The answer was never the kind you have to keep, and there will be no morning that asks you for it. Long after these words have faded from your memory, the truth of them will go on being true. The light crossing, the sky deepening, the far lamps waiting their turn, none of it needing you to remember. That is the mercy of the very large and the very slow. It carries itself. Nothing so old and so calm has ever needed a keeper. You were only ever invited to look for one evening, and you have looked, and now even the looking can be set down, the way a book is set down, still open, on the quilt beside you. So let the window darken now, softly, in your mind. Let the stars settle back into their places, the near ones and the far ones together, each at its own depth in the long night. The old astronomers can rest too. Kepler with his careful worry, Halley, Olbers watching the sky while his patient slept. Their beautiful question answered at last, all of them asleep, now for centuries in the same dark they wondered at. Far away, the little spacecraft drifts on without us, out past the last of the planets, keeping its quiet watch over the deepest night ever measured. Everything out there is doing what it should, unhurried, unfinished, on its way. Your breathing has grown slow all on its own by now, and the room has grown soft around it. Whatever the day left in your hands can be set down here, at the edge of all this distance, where it looks as small as it truly is. The night outside will keep, morning will find the window in its own time, the way it always does, with no help from anyone. Starlight will go on arriving in it, quietly, all night and every night, whether anyone is watching or not. No one needs to watch tonight. The sky has kept its own counsel for longer than anyone can imagine, and it does not mind an empty window. There is nothing left to follow now. The question is answered, and the answer is gentle, and the dark overhead is only time, resting. You can stop anywhere in these last words, and they will finish without you. They know the way home. Let the dark be dark now, and let it be kind. It has carried the light this far, all this way, only to arrive in the middle of your quiet night. Nothing more is coming that cannot wait for morning. The stars will hold, and you can sleep.